Alright. Let's see. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. We're live. Hello, welcome to the enemy stream. It's good to be back. It's been a while. It's been a good couple of months. Sorry about that, but that's what we're going to be getting into today, along with numerous other topics. We're going to be covering our absence and all of the fun stuff that's happened over the past couple of months. Spoiler alert, sickness, mental health, general life smashing us over the head nonsense. It's been a real doozy. So we'll be covering that. I also want to be talking today about the absolute abysmal, shocking failure of the PSVR2. Who saw it coming? I mean, it had like no promotion, no investment into good content. It's really expensive. There's no games on it that anybody wants to play. It's all Quest ports. Who saw this coming, eh? So we're going to be going into that. There's been a report released about how the PlayStation VR2's launch has been less than stellar. And this affects us at Enemy Team personally because we are developing VR content and we believe in VR as a medium, which is another big question about the future of VR. Is it a medium? Is it a gimmick? So I want to be getting into that. And probably round things off with talking about the future in terms of what our intentions are with Enemy Team, the kind of product we're making. You've seen little snippets of things like Gun Day. So I want to talk a little bit about what is it we've been cooking up and trying to work on, and what is the sort of angle of attack here, which direction are we going in, how are we actually going to get Enemy Team up and running and off the ground, and what lessons have we learned from the past year of sort of scrambling around basically in the dirt, shit and mud, trying to get it off the ground. We've learned a lot of things in that process. So I'm going to be getting into everything and more. Just going to check and make sure that everything's all good. Cool. Stream is sounding great. Doing a bit of a different setup. Like I've moved my mic. My mic is above my head. My mic broke, which is really annoying. So I'm using another mic, and that's positioned here, and I'm doing a sort of full frontal approach. I usually am off to the side. So trying out a few different things. I like that I can now use my hands. When I had the boom arm in front of me, I was always slapping into it and shit. This is actually nice. So we'll see how this goes. In terms of just general housekeeping-y type stuff, I mean, obviously the usual like, favorite, and subscribe. What for? Well, there's not much right now, but promise you, we're really going to be going whole ham on this, trying to produce more content, regular updates, showing you the game, talking about the wider gaming world, what we think of it, trying to entertain you, baby. We're trying to provide you some entertainment, for God's sake. And, you know, Lord knows, entertaining content is hard to come by these days in the post-Trump era, in the era of wokeism. It's very difficult to find anything fucking entertaining anywhere. So we're gonna try and do what we can on that front with the live streams, YouTube content, TikTok shorts, game builds. We're gonna try to get a game build up of one of our games, which we'll be talking about towards the end of this. We're gonna try get something up before Easter Friday. Is that what it's called? Easter Sunday? Before the Easter holiday at the end of the week. Alright? We're going to try to get you a game. We're going to get you guys a game. So, just hang fire. We're working on it. But okay, let's get into things. So, obviously, losing our previous company sucked. And you've heard me talk about this before, and you're going to hear me talk about this a lot more, because I got a lot to get off my goddamn chest. It sucks, okay? It fucking sucks. Everything I built for 10 years plus was completely obliterated. I had to fire all my friends and everyone I love, and my whole life got completely destroyed. The amount of money that I lost in it, I lost everything. And for the past year, or for all of last year, sorry, we basically spent the first quarter of that year wrapping things up, and so we're in the state of, like, who knows which direction this is going to go in. There was legal stuff up in the air. I don't want to go too much into it, but basically, like, shutting down a business is not just clicking a button. You don't just go beep, bop, boop. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And we had this funding deal lined up, which you've heard me talk about before. I think I can talk, I don't know how much we talked about it in the past, but basically it was like a Russian funding vehicle, like Russian money trying to invest into the wider, like, global gaming world. There'd been some investments in America, some investments in Britain. Russia invades Ukraine like 3 days after they offer us a shitload of money, and so the deal gets paused, it blows up. I go to develop with a series of products, which I'm going to talk a bit towards the end of the stream, to try and get some interest in the business and what we're doing. And I basically fail at doing that, not because what we have is not interesting, but because, we had a game, Gun Day Driver, for example, that's about driving around at high speed, shooting people, and you drink beer and you run people over, and people said that's, cool and all, but you can't have drinking and driving, and you can't have a pro drink driving game and expect to get that into something like PSVR2. And so we immediately were like, well, fuck, like, we want to make fun, kind of edgy, crazy content. And what we're getting back is people going, oh, you can't do drink driving. Like, oh, if you're shooting criminals, in LA, like, make sure there's not too many Mexicans, or it might be considered as a sort of racist, like, race hate crime simulator. And, I get where they're coming from. I think it's stupid. But where I'm coming from is like, hey, like, if somebody mistakenly thinks that my game is pro drink driving or like pro race war, well, that's great. That's awesome, because that's going to generate a shitload of media coverage, controversy. People will buy the game on principle. Other people will never buy the game and become anti-fans for life. But that in turn will help promoters. And at the core of it, we will just continue to try and make the best game possible, the most entertaining product possible. Something that fills gaps in the market, that advances whatever medium, genre that we're working in forwards. But, I'm coming in with all of this energy to one of the premier games development events of the year, at least for the British industry, I'd say for the globe. And just the feedback that I was getting was like, as per usual, as I've always got throughout my whole life, it's, Andrew, like, just stop. We got a problem. You're not fitting in. We need you to fit in and just play ball. And don't rock the boat too much. And don't be too crazy. And, that just, it's not for me. And it's not for ET. So we changed tact, as some of you know, and we started trying to do streams and trying to produce content. But honestly, that's been extremely difficult. One, because it's not my wheelhouse. It's not any of our wheelhouse. We're not content producers. We're not people who are comfortable and used to firing up a stream every day and talking for 2 hours and, video editing content, all this kind of stuff. Like, that's not what I've been doing for the past 5-10 years. I've been in a sort of design, production, business management role, and all of a sudden I'm trying to become like an entertainer, which I've done elements of. I've always had a streak of that within me, and I've always done that whether I was doing my events company promotion, games, doing events, like talking on camera, doing podcasts. It's something that I can do, but this isn't just, hey, do more marketing. This is an entirely different funding and revenue model for a business. To the extent of which we're talking about, like, we're not necessarily even developing products. We are developing content to entertain first and foremost. Second, to convince people to sign up to things like our Patreon or super chat to us or whatever, to donate money to enable us to start building actual games content. And through that process, product slash products will start to emerge that we can start to inject into the market. That's very different to the world that I was trained to go into and have operated in for the past 10 years, which is, generally speaking, I mean, in almost all cases, you create a pitch using your own money and you go to a publisher and you go to many publishers actually, you pitch all around and you try to get the best deal possible, which is going to be a shit deal for you no matter what, unless you already have, track record or an audience that's already behind you. But again, easier said than done. Even in those cases, generally speaking, you're going to have a deal which has a very tight production schedule, tight milestones, a lot of top-down control from an external partner who probably knows how to fund a game, doesn't know how to make a game, and thus do not understand or care about your concerns or desires as a creative. And so you deal with that as you can, and then you get a product out, and you have to get it into influencers' hands, and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go all, super in-depth into this. That'll be for future shows, talking about our history of making games and the challenges of just trying to get funding for a project, and then the bigger challenge of actually trying to stick with a publisher, despite how fucking enraging they are, and then actually getting a product out, and, it's a whole thing. 10 years of history. But this is an entirely different way of approaching things. Moreover, previously we were trying as best as we could, and I should say as best as I could, to fit into the industry. I've never fit in anywhere I ever go, and I thought, hey, I'm like this super freak, weirdo, kind of eccentric dude. I want to make video games, I like video games, maybe I'll find loads of other people like me in the games industry, as you would expect. And that didn't happen. I found a very, very small number of people in the industry who get me, and found that the rest of the industry is... it's one part corporate, and it's one part, I don't want to say, others would call it woke. It has other words. Again, something for future streams, future content, and I have to be careful what I say on Twitch. But something which is antithetical, the games industry that I grew up as a fan of, and the kinds of people that I grew up wanting to sort of emulate or surpass, those people are hated in the current industry. The industry that I entered into is one about hiring. We need to hire more women, and we need to increase black representation, and we need to make things less problematic and less toxic. I grew up playing games like Halo, where half the fun is being toxic. And what built Xbox, what built Halo, what built the Xbox Live experience, what built the 360, all of this was that kind of aggressive but fun world that you could enter into, that was away from all the bullying and fucked up shit at school and at home, all of the horrible things in the world. You could go to this place, which is guys being guys, having fun, blowing each other up, and, dropping M-bombs and all sorts of other phrases and words at each other, and it was great. And I thought, I want to be a part of that. The entertaining experiences and the community and culture that other people built and cultivated for me. I want to do that. I want to be a part of that, and I want to build something myself. And I entered into the industry and found that everyone is piss scared to just say the wrong thing, let alone actually make games for specific audiences. No, we can't even do that. All of gaming has to be for everybody, at all times, everywhere. No one can be offended, but we have to increase representation and blah, 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 blah. And it's terrible when there's a room full of white guys making games. That's awful. So you can imagine me as a guy who loves it when, eccentric weirdo dudes just make games like Doom or Halo or whatever. I came into this industry to find it being sort of subverted and changed from within. And so immediately, I, along with the close people that I work with, like Jack, for example, we were on the back foot, where whether we were working at Prospect, our own business, or working out in the industry at Cody's or Dubbit or Firesprite, or doing contract work for Bossa or whoever, it was always a case of we have to hold our tongue, we have to do things their way, we have to not rock the boat, can't do anything too crazy, can't do anything outlandish, say the wrong opinion. I mean, talk about gatekeeping. This industry and gatekeeping is like this. It's hand in hand. You say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and it spreads like wildfire. Not publicly, not often publicly, but under the surface, spreads around, and now you're you're poisoned. You're poisonous. People will avoid you. People will treat you differently. It's awful. And so I'm rambling a bit, but Prospect blows up. I re-enter the industry with a sort of renewed vigor of like, fuck it. Like, I just want to be me. I just want to not have to make decisions in fear constantly. I don't want to have to make decisions considering other people's feelings. I want to be able to pitch my game about drinking and driving. By the way, teetotaler, don't drink, don't do drugs, think all of that's stupid. But I think it's funny making a game about like driving around, blowing up criminals while getting drunk. I think that's a funny, entertaining idea, and it plays well. So who gives a shit? I don't want to have to go out and put that out there and to get back just negativity and, oh, you can't do that, and, oh, that's not right, and, oh, age ratings, and blah, 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 blah. So I came away from develop middle of last year just like dejected. We started trying to do the streaming thing, not my wheelhouse, of struggling. And, you know, the big thing for me is, the big thing that's been weighing me down is my mental health, which since 2017 has been awful, quite frankly. I've struggled with mental health issues my entire life, due to a lot of bad things happening in my life. Unsurprisingly, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere for me. But trying to run a business while having a backlog of issues already in your head, and that business basically just getting broken down, raped and murdered over years. And no matter what I do, no matter how many rabbits I pull out the hat, new publishing deals, new funding deals, flying around the world, begging people to just play the fucking game or invest in it or whatever. I tried everything and it failed. And so last year wasn't just about me trying to rebuild or trying to build a new business. It was also about trying to rebuild myself and addressing a lot of issues that I was having personally. But all of it sort of came to a head at the end of last year. It was all too much. It was all too much. Just too much damage accrued. And that happened to coincide with this awesome period of shit. We had Jack getting really ill, physically. We had Michael getting really ill. We had my people in my family. I had to go to Scotland to look after a family member who got very ill, alongside a bunch of other things with my family that was going absolutely terribly. I mean, my family situation, again, that's a video for or a stream for the future. But my God, the personal family situation that I've been going through has been... Hitler had it easy with that war on two fronts. I would kill for a war on two fronts. Oh my God, just America and the USSR trying to kill me at every possible opportunity. I can handle that compared to what I have been dealing with on the family front. And so the past, you know, we started 2023 going, this is the make or break year. This is it. If we don't finally, like, what's that line in Whiplash? For the final father fucking time, can we just fucking do this? It was like that. That was January 1st. And then we're all getting sick, and we're ending up in hospital, and we're having to literally move to another country and live in somebody else's house to look after them for weeks and months. It was just like a cacophony of shit. And so we get to today, where I just about had it with all this shit. To be honest, I just rediscovered I'm turning 34 this year. I thought I was turning 33 this year. Being in your 30s already sucks. It sucks worse to find out that you're a year older than you actually thought you were. And time is running out. I've been trying to do this for, 14, 15 years now, alongside guys like Jack and other people from our past who we're still in contact with, and trying to figure out, how do we pull this all back together? How do we make the games that we want to make? How do we make the kind of... how do we improve things for others and for ourselves? How do we just make this work without there being constant nuclear bombs being thrown at us? And a big part of it is that's life. Like that's I'm very hard on myself, and I try to not be so. It's difficult, but I do have to say to myself, like, look, Andrew, and I say this to the guys, look, Jack, look, Michael, look, everybody. It doesn't matter how tough things are for us. It doesn't matter how many awful things have happened to us personally, our businesses, whatever. That's just life. Sometimes life hits you as hard as you possibly can, and you have to be outcome independent. You have to keep getting up and putting your all into something, while at the same time not actually caring that much about it. And this is something that Jack and I especially, we've talked so much about, that we are very harsh critics of ourselves. We overthink things. We we want to do the best job possible. And so we put very, very high pressure standards on ourselves. When in reality, what we should be doing is caring, but not giving a shit in the day to day. Second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour. It doesn't matter how things are necessarily going. It doesn't matter if nobody watches this stream, it doesn't matter, because what's more important is this is one stream out of 1,000. It doesn't matter if we put a build out and people say it's shit and I don't get it. What matters is that we're putting builds out. What matters is that we're taking in feedback. What matters is when relatives die, when people end up in hospital, when funding deals fall apart because of global conflict, we have to just suck it up and keep on going. Now, it doesn't mean that we should ignore our issues. I am still dealing with a lot in my head, and that's something I want to talk more about on the stream, because I know I'm not alone. I know that there's so many people in the same boat as me. It's not a unique story to be a 30-year-old white guy in the Western world who had a shitty upbringing, parents who didn't give a shit, school that didn't give a shit, meanwhile being told by the media and everybody else that you have everything going for you, and conversely, you're the reason why everybody else's lives suck, and every step of the way it's on you. Like, that's not a unique story. But it is something we need to talk more about and be realistic about. And there's a huge overlap of people whose lives fucking suck and gamers. Like, there's a big reason a lot of us play games, entering virtual worlds to get away from the shit. It's because the real world, full of a lot of shit. Doesn't mean we should shy away like ostriches with our heads in the sand, but it is a space. Gaming, for us, historically has been a place to get away from awful things and find some positivity, find some connection with other people, and have fun, which is an important part of life. Only now we can't even really do that, because gaming is not about having fun anymore. Gaming is about sending a message. Gaming has become this ideological battleground, and it sucks. We're not having fun anymore. So that is a all over the show sort of rapid retelling of what's been happening, and where I'm at now is fuck it mode. It is very much now is the time to turn things around. There's not going to be another opportunity. There's not going to be another chance. We cannot be scared of failure. We cannot be scared of criticism. We cannot be scared of bridges being burned. And all of that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of fail, a lot of bridges being burned, reputation loss, because we're going to be doing things that goes very much against the grain of what is expected, not just in the games industry, but in our liberal society. It's not going to fit in. And I don't care anymore. I don't care that if people don't like me, I can't give a shit anymore about that. And that doesn't just go out to my enemies, that goes out to people who support me, people who like me, people who like what we've done previously. I'll cover it more towards the end, but, I'm sorry about the way the Robot Champions went. I'm sorry about the way the Smash Punks went. I'm sorry that people put money into this and they didn't get what they wanted out of it. But I tried my absolute fucking hardest against unbelievable odds, and still got specifically screwed over by people who I thought were on my side. I can't help that. I can't help you guys out any more than I already have. All I can do is keep moving forwards. But I can't be getting bogged down with, but you let us all down. There's a string of people behind me. Either people who have worked for me, worked with me, have helped fund us, or just been fans, who act as if I've duped or tricked them or screwed them over, or I've done something which I've done things specifically not for the betterment of all of us, not to create a product, not to create an amazing business, but I don't know what for. If people think that I've come away from this with some kind of, in some kind of beneficial form, I can tell you that I haven't. None of this has been beneficial to me. I've ended up in the hospital. I've ended up going to the doctor. I've been on medication. I've had to go through so much just to keep the engine just about running. Really push to the brink, push beyond the brink doesn't begin to describe it. So I want to try and right some of the wrongs of the past, but I want to move forwards in a new way. I want Enemy Team to move forwards in a new way, and I don't want us to be anchored down and weighed down with past failure or accusations of, wrongdoing. All I can say is, sorry, it didn't work out. And I have to say that to myself as much as you guys. It didn't work out. We all tried. And if you're upset or salty or rage-filled or whatever about how the past went down, I'm going to have to leave that with you. Sorry. So, we're moving forwards. I want to do live streams more regularly. Content production. Get more stuff out on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter to an extent. Twitter still sucks. Like, I'm glad Elon bought it. It sucks less, but it still sucks. And as a discovery platform, it's not very good. It's fun for, like, taking the piss out of people, but in terms of getting stuff out there, not amazing. But we'll continue to use it. We'll continue. I need a tissue. I've been growing out my mustache as well. I keep getting water on my mustache, and it feels really uncomfortable. Ugh, it's terrible. My hair looks awful as well. I just worked out before this, and I had a shower, and I thought I'd look good, but I think I just look like shiny and greasy and shit. I look awful, basically. I look like I'm dying, but I'm almost 34, so that comes with the territory. Once you hit your 30s, you basically just look like a husk or a ghoul from Fallout. You start to take on that ghoulish form. Voice starts getting gravelly. Hey, smooth skin. That's what I feel like. I feel like a ghoul, basically. But I'm trying to not live a ghoulish life. I'm trying to be positive so we can move forwards. So I'll cover more about what it is that we're actually working on at the end, towards the end of the stream. What are we looking at time-wise as well? Here's another thing as well. I just got to get used to streaming. Like, this 28 minutes have gone by. About, when did I click live? About 25 minutes ago. Yeah, that's all right then. Anyway, learning how to do all of this. Ain't easy, but fuck it. What can you do? I ain't going back to publishers and investors or any of that shit anymore. So this is the only way forwards, and we're gonna have to embrace it and try and enjoy it. Like, not get too head up about things. But yeah, let's move on. Let's cover the bit. To me, the big story right now is actually last week. I actually made some content on this. I did a video last week with Jack on this topic, but unfortunately, all my recording stuff, this piece of shit's broke. Well, can't even show you. It's all tight. Basically, a load of shit broke. So I've had to get a slightly new setup. So here we go again. Take 2 on the PlayStation VR. So yeah, PSVR2 launched back in February. And running up to it, to me, it's been extremely obvious that this thing was not going to work out 6 to 12 months ago. Because from the announcement of the PSVR2, there wasn't really, in my opinion, an acknowledgement from Sony about the They talked about the limitations of the PSVR 1, but they didn't really talk about how it's not really made all that great an impact. And there isn't this massive PlayStation VR community. It's quite compact. And so you would think with the PSVR 2, it's not... if you're just announcing another mobile phone, hey, here's the Samsung Galaxy S50, and now we're doing the Samsung Galaxy F51. People go, okay, yeah, expected that it's a new phone. But with VR, it's not a medium that is working on the whole. VR has not gone in the direction that it needs to go. It's not, the bubble burst, quite frankly. The expectation people had from VR in, when was it really picking up? 2012, 2013, was this thing's going to have, slow, steady growth. It's very expensive. It's very revelatory technology. We're going to have to figure a lot of things out. But in the next 5 to 10 years, this thing's going to be booming. And obviously with Facebook acquiring Oculus and, Valve HTC building, the Index and all this kind of stuff, there was a lot of investment going into hardware. And so the expectation was, well, in 10 years' time, VR is going to become this booming industry. Fast forward, and it ain't. It's a niche, at best, with not much content that really is any good. First and foremost, just not that much good content. And nothing that is really what you could call like a killer lineup of VR products that really defines the medium that everybody else is now trying to emulate and build upon. That moment, that kind of like, what would you call it, that like singularity moment just hasn't happened. In the same way that games like Doom drops back in 92, 93, and it kickstarts basically the entire first-person shooter genre, but also like multiplayer gaming, had a tremendous impact on the desire for people to actually play together. And so many people tried to emulate Doom specifically, but it expanded people's horizons and they started making other kinds of experiences off of that. There was an evolution. That's not really happened with VR, and it's stagnated over the past couple of years. So in my mind, PSVR2, the announcement should have been, all of VR up to this point has sucked. Fuck all that. We're the future because we are coming in with a periphery, a headset designed for this console, not just taping dildo stick move controllers onto a headset and trying to get out the door. No, we have spent a lot of time and energy in this. Better yet, the content is going to be awesome. It's not just going to be experiences. It's not just going to be roller coaster rides. It's not just going to be ports from other VR platforms. We're going to invest internally and externally and ensure that there is an amazing spread of launch content to enable a great launch period, lots of sales. That in turn is going to attract other people to invest into the VR space, whether it's developers investing their time, funders putting in money, whatever. It's going to be, in my mind, crucial that that's how it goes. But that is not how the PSVR 2 was announced. It was announced as a sort of, yeah, we're doing more VR. As if we're meant to be fucking impressed. As if people are tripping over themselves going, well, the PSVR 1, with its awful controllers and, okay headset and completely shit lineup of products, oh yeah, I can't wait for more of that. Over the past year, as more and more has been revealed, it only became more obvious that this was going to be the case. And we get to the launch a month ago, and what's their big advertising campaign? It's an awful advert with Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne of all people advertising Horizon Call of the Mountain. And it's just Ozzy sat. I mean, the guy's like borderline paraplegic. He's sat on he's literally like this. He's like, hang on. Here we go. Let me show you. This is the advert. I don't know if you can hear me. Sharon! Oh fuck! The fucking dinosaur! Oh! What? That's seriously? Are you serious? That's seriously how you chose to launch the PSVR 2. And that was it. That was like the only like specific, that was like the advert for PlayStation VR. And what are they advertising? A borderline on-rails VR game that is like 5 hours long. It's been developed for like 6+ years. And so it has mechanics and features in it from VR that was standard in VR literally like in 2015. So you have essentially a 2015 VR game with nice graphics, sure, but mechanically is just shit and boring, alongside a bunch of ports. Oh, and here's was it Supermassive coming in with a on rails roller coaster, monster dark pictures shooting thing. Like, really, roller coaster experiences in 2023 for VR, when that is the stuff that burst the bubble of VR, that killed the hype. Because people thought that we were going to be living in the Matrix. They thought that we were going to be living a Ready Player One lifestyle. And instead what we got was interactive experiences, roller coasters, single room games, and not much more. And yeah, there's a Beat Saber here and there's a Half-Life Alyx there. There are great VR products, but an entire medium can't live on a handful of products. And it certainly cannot live with a slow trickle of product coming out over the course of years. There's just not that many titles, thus increasing the need for PSVR2 to launch with an absolute killer lineup. At least one game in there that's not just good, not even just great, but that sets a new standard in the way that like Half-Life Alyx did, so that as a consumer, okay, no one as a consumer is coming in not knowing what VR is at this point. So you as a consumer should be coming in going, right, these guys are planting the flag. PlayStation is the future of VR. Facebook, now Meta, had the opportunity by purchasing Oculus, and they fucked it. Okay, that's the past. PlayStation VR 2 is the future. Okay, well, what does this report say? Since launching going on almost 3 months ago, it's sold less than 300,000 units. And I would put that as one of the worst launches in at least recent memory of what I would call a console. I know that it is considered an add-on to the PS5. You do not need a VR2 to be able to play PS5, but it's more expensive than the PS5 itself, right? So it is essentially a console unto itself. That selling that few number of copies, or units, sorry, in this space of time is extremely bad. And if I just bring up the article, professionally, I didn't already have it up. I'm learning, alright? Cut me some slack. Where are we? So, reportedly below 300,000 units. And yeah, ahead of this, about a month or two ago, there was a report that apparently was leaked. I don't think it was an official report, but basically Sony internally expected 2 million units in the first 3 months, and then they allegedly slashed that to 1 million units. Well, fast forward now, does it even sound like they're going to get close to 1 million units? I mean, they've got, a month, maybe a month and a half more until they hit the 3-month mark since launch. Are they going to hit 1 million units? Absolutely not. And just look at the chatter, whether it's on Reddit, Facebook, the comments to all of these articles now starting to talk about this. Generally speaking, gamers have clocked on to what the problem is, and that is the content. Not the hardware, the headset, the controllers, the PlayStation 5 itself, all great. And the games that are on there, while mostly either just completely boring titles like whatever it's called, Switchblade, whatever the roller coaster game is, or ports of Quest games, they play well, and they look fine. It's just there's not that much there. And none of it is particularly interesting, and most of it is not new. That's the problem. Content is king. You can't launch, whether it's a console or a TV channel or whatever, you can't launch something without content. And you certainly can't leave it as an afterthought. You can't expect people to invest in hardware that has nothing to play on it. Or, as we've seen, go read the comments, people have played Horizon and they're gonna like that, and they've played Gran Turismo and gone, it's amazing. Like, okay, what else? You can't expect people to now wait, 8, 9 months, 12 months until the next set of titles, and there's only, I think, somewhere around 20 to 30 titles lined up to further release on the PlayStation VR 2, And of that list, not very much of any interest. Let's take a look. Let's take a look, actually. PSVR 2 upcoming games. What I should be doing is showing you the screen as well, but I'm not because I haven't got that set up. So you just have to listen to me. So we've got Creed: Rise to Glory, Sea Smash, VRS in June, and then tentatively we have the Among Us VR game, which you can already play on Quest. That's been out for at least half a year. Beat Saber, hey, they got Beat Saber coming. Oh wow, we're saved. Oh my god, yeah, we've not played Beat Saber for the past like 7 years. We got Beat Saber, cool. Hellsweeper VR, Green Hell VR, again, a game that's been around for ages. Pixel Rip 1978, which, you know, is an experience, I would say. It's kind of a game, it's an experience. It didn't light the world on fire, it is what it is. But Pixel Ripped came out years ago. I remember meeting, is it Anna? I can't remember her full name, but the lady who's developed that game. I met her in 2015. She was making that game back in 2015. I think it was finished in 2017, 2018. You know, has there ever been a point in the gaming industry world where a console has launched and the majority of the content that comes out on it at launch and post-launch are 5+ year old games? Has that ever happened? I don't think so. And so this brings about a point that I've not seen many people talk about. So everyone said, look, you know, Sony focuses on hardware more than content, so it's expected. Okay. And yes, there's not a huge amount of VR developers or people willing to risk funding VR titles, so there's going to be less content. Sure. Or acknowledged. A point that I've not really seen anybody talk about is the fundamental question of what is VR exactly? Is it, I mean this, is VR a medium unto itself, distinctly separate from what we would call traditionally gaming? PC gaming, console gaming, whatever. When we think gaming, we think people playing Quake on a PC, or we think people playing Mario Kart on the N64, or whatever. Is VR that? Is it just part of the gaming world? Or is it a medium? Essentially, is it a medium or is it a gimmick? Because none of us viewed the PlayStation iToy as a wholly new separate world of gaming. Even with the Kinect, sure, a very, very distinctly different way of interacting with your game, using motion controls, you know, clearly taking the sort of very basic approach Nintendo had with the Wii and the waggle stick. Hey, with accelerometers, we can use motion to you know, be the controller for the game. The Kinect just took that one step further and said, do away with the thing you hold, it's just flap your arms around and it's the same thing. But none of us looked at that and said, wow, an entirely new medium of entertainment. We all viewed these things essentially as features or gimmicks. You know, no one looked at the Wii and thought, well, this is the future of all gaming. We all viewed it as a branching feature, a branching element of gaming, a gimmick that has a lot to give, but a gimmick nonetheless. So what is VR? Because I was under the impression, I think people back in the 80s and 90s when VR had its first go, people were not viewing that as the same as arcade cabinets. They're going, this is a whole, you know, there's a big difference between that Power Glove movie, whatever it's called, and like Lawnmower Man. People didn't confuse those two things. Right? You fast forward to 2012, 2013, when VR started to pick back up again, and Facebook investing in it, and yada yada with Oculus. Again, it really felt distinctly as a separate thing that was branching off in its own direction. Yes, we're using the same engines and underlying technology to make VR games as we are games, but the experience is so different. The challenges as designers to overcome and the kind of entertaining experiences we're going to provide are so distinctly different between these two things, mediums essentially, that it is its own medium. But how has the games industry talked about this? How have they presented it? Well, we don't have a PlayStation VR console. we have PlayStation VR add-ons to a console. Look at the direction as well that companies like Meta have taken things. We had a headset that was designed for PC with the Rift. Now, they did go in the direction of, let's build this into a singular self-contained device with the Quest and the Quest 2, but in the process kind of made it a gimmick because there's only so much processing power a single headset can have. There's only so much battery life it can have. And thus it limited the VR experiences that you could potentially have in that headset to things which were extremely simple and basic. And sure, you can technically plug a Quest 2 or a Quest into your PC. It's a fucking nightmare. Try using AirLink, try use the cable link. It's horrible. Half the time it doesn't work. I couldn't even use my headset for 2 months because it just stopped working. And now it started working again. So it's not being treated, in my opinion, the games industry has not treated VR with the care or, I was going to say, of tenderness. Not tenderness. Reverence? Maybe that would be the word. This is something important. This is something that has huge potential. This is something that needs a lot of focus, time, and attention in order to develop it into its own medium. And instead, they've taken the kind of cheapskate route of going, well, if we can just add it to another console, or, well, if we can just, hey, this thing was going in a great direction, but it's still kind of niche. Let's just throw it into this tiny little package, self-contained device. You throw it on women's head to do yoga. You give it to some kids to play Among Us, and it'll make some money here, there, and everywhere. But, no one's going to give a shit beyond a couple of years' time. Okay. I take that as the industry treating VR as an exploitable opportunity and not much more. A chance to kind of gimmickify an aspect of gaming. Oh, hey, now you can use your hands. All right, we'll build a device that lets you wiggle your hands around and do some stuff. Some people will buy it, some people won't. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter if it succeeds or fails. We'll make some money out of it somewhere. Well, if that is the approach that the wider industry is going to take, whether it is Meta or Sony, then I don't see much of a future for VR. And I think, and the reason I'm quite passionate about this is, as we are developing VR technology and VR products, the decisions that people make in the wider industry do have a direct effect on us. Every launch of a new VR platform is giving people a yes or no vote of confidence in the future of VR. And if the hardware is lacking, or if the hardware is great but the content is lacking, and that platform ultimately fails to attract not just the existing crowd, but exponentially increase the number of people involved in the medium, well then that's a vote of no confidence in VR, right? Like, if PSVR1 does okay, and then PSVR2 does bad, well then that points towards it being on a downwards trajectory. At what point have consumers, specifically in the technology field, ever invested large sums of time and money into something that's failing? What was it? When we had a Blu-ray versus HD DVD, how many of us, some of us went out and got those HD DVD add-ons for the Xbox 360. Once we saw that wasn't working out, who went out and bought one? Or when they ended up, they sold them a clearance, £10 for an entire HD DVD player. I remember looking at one of those in Game Station. Why didn't I buy it? What a deal. Well, because I know that speaks to a downwards trajectory. That if they're selling these things for 10 quid, they're not going to be making HD DVD discs in the next week or in the next month, so why would I invest in it? It's dead technology. Well, I believe that is essentially what we're on the cusp of with VR. We're right there on the brink. And the only real hope that I've seen, interesting hope for VR moving forwards, is the modding scene. And seeing people take games like Left 4 Dead or Resident Evil or Cyberpunk and modding them to contain VR content, so that you've got this sort of hybrid approach of a game that can both be a screen-based game and a VR game. and this is something that we've actually internally adopted at Enemy Team as well, that we're trying to figure out ways of kind of hybridizing the process, because we are just now at a point where if you are going to be a pure VR developer, you have to put some insane restrictions on yourself. I mean, really, if you want to be a lone VR or a focused solely VR developer and make money, you're pretty much strapped to the Quest at this point. Like, you are going to have to make a great Quest game, and that has a niche market, not a very focused one either. There isn't really, like, if I asked someone to describe a gamer from the 360 era, you can immediately build that image in your head. But if I say Quest 2, you probably think, like, maybe little kids, maybe women who like to play light boxer, but maybe some people like playing poker, probably a lot of weirdos playing, pretending to be furries in VR chat. But beyond that, it's loose. It's not really focused, so your chances of actually finding success there, pretty slim. Pretty slim. We want to make VR games, but we don't want to be tethered to a world that's potentially on a downwards trajectory. So that's the only thing that we can see, is that there is a pathway forwards here through this kind of hybrid approach where essentially we say, look, it is neither a gimmick nor a medium unto itself. It's actually somewhere in between here. It's an alternative way to be able to play your game, and it opens up potential mechanics and experiences that you just can't possibly have in a screen-based game. But we're not going to, like, we as Enemy Team, we are not specifically going to pour our hearts and souls into a VR-only title, because the failures and poor decision-making processes of all of the major players in the industry has basically made that not an option. It's not a realistic option anymore. And so if VR ever is going to become its own medium, that's going to have to happen way into the future at this point. And it will be driven by a company like Enemy Team having a huge success and actually investing the time, money, passion, and energy into making great VR products. But for now, I believe we're going to have to go down the hybrid route. And to bring it all back around, I don't really see anybody in the wider industry having this proper debate or discussion about what the direction of VR actually is and what its purpose is within the gaming landscape. Honestly, I think no one really gives a shit. At least in the realms of the people who make decisions. The decision-making class don't care, because they have no passion for this anyway. They're just trying to make money, and like any smart investor, you spread your money around. You put it in different pots. So there's an amount of money in VR. If it fails, no one's going under. Except for the VR developers. Except for the people who actually care. And of course the gamers who invested all their time and money into the world of VR. All of those people will lose out. They'll lose out on hardware, technology, jobs, livelihoods, maybe their very lives themselves. Who cares? What does it matter? Fuck it. Nothing matters. That's the 21st century approach, right? Whatever. Nothing matters. Why would you care about this so much? It's lame to care about these things. What you should be doing is making money. You should have your Sigma grindset hat on at all times. Just think about destroying, killing, raping, pillaging, lying, doing whatever you can to make as much cash as possible. Promise people the world, screw them over, whatever. Well, sorry, I'm not down with that. I'd actually like to stop for a second and think, what's best for gamers? What's best for us? What's best for the industry? What's best for this potential budding, growing medium? Has huge potential. I'd rather we try and focus in on that than, hey, we've attached the Ghostbusters IP to this new VR experience that'll be an hour long. Oh, look, it's Rick and Morty, but in VR. Oh, look, we ported 5-year-old VR content that was on PC, and then we downgraded it to work on the Quest 2, and now we've upgraded it to work on the PlayStation, but it's still a 5-6-year-old piece of content. Just give us money. Just keep giving us money. You know. Okay, great, guys. Great job. Awesome. Awesome work. You know, people wonder why gamers are becoming increasingly disenfranchised. It's this. It's something to do with this. But anyway, talk quite a lot. Coming up on the hour mark, you know, that's looking like a good point to move on. So, my predictions for the future is that the PlayStation VR2 is going to continue to go in a bad direction, much like we saw with things, I've already forgotten the name of it, Stadia. Much like Stadia, not only is this not a good launch, but like Stadia, there's nothing really coming up next. And so, you know, just keep an eye on the Reddit. There'll be a lot of coping and seething and saying, oh, well, you know, just 2 more weeks, you know, it's going to get better, it's going to turn around. The content is coming, just hold out, guys. Well, looking at the announced titles, the content ain't coming. And what is coming is not enough. Because what's needed for VR is millions of people buying into this technology in order to make it definably its own medium. And there is no indication of that happening in the wider VR world, and it doesn't look like Sony really gives a shit if that happens or not either. And, you know, to an extent, who can blame them? They're a massive, multi-armed technology company, entertainment company. They'll be fine if it survives or not. You know, the iToy came and went, no one died. So, we are going to move forwards with a internal recommendation to develop hybrid screen-based and VR content, which I'll get onto in a second. Recommend that to pretty much everybody else. Unless you really want to play the game, in which case, good luck. I think you're going to get screwed. But that's your prerogative. So, moving on. Man, I'm animated. I'm fired up. This is great. I'm loving it. You know what it is? It's this. Look at that. Look at that. It's the fact that I got room. I hate having things around me. I hate being constrained. Like, I trash, like, all the furniture. Last time you probably saw me on camera, I had, like, all of this was, like, furniture everywhere. It's terrible. Actually having room where I can... Look at that. I can spin around. Fists out. Oh, shit. Almost hit that shit. I can move about, basically. It's pretty cool. So that's getting me all hyped up. I'm getting all fired up. This is what it's going to be like. I'm going to do this. I'm literally going to do this 3 hours every day, just out of my mind, screaming into microphones, throwing shit around, smashing shit up, drinking my water, praying to Buddha. Where is he? Oh, it's reversed. There we go. Praying to Buddha. And just having fun with it. And, you know, and if people don't like that, then, I don't know. Take it up with somebody else. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I'm just gonna have fun with it. So, yeah, look into the future. What are we doing? What are we making? More importantly, what are we not making right now? We're not making Smash Punks, and this pisses me off. But as I've said in previous updates, we lost everything. We lost the entire development team. And unfortunately, the product was developed, you know, with those people in mind. Like, we built the game, so, for example, from a coding standpoint, the game was built by a programmer who knows how to develop in C++. Those of us left here do not know how to write C++ code, and it would take years to get to that skill level. On top of that, there was server tech and all sorts of back-end technology going on that we don't know how to use. So we can't really get the game up and running at the moment because we don't have the technical skills to be able to do it. We also don't have the money to host server costs and all this kind of stuff. And the project is essentially just dead. Like, in terms of unless we rehire all of those people back or find people with equivalent skill sets, which we're talking about a burn rate of like £25,000 a month to be able to have those people back again. At least 15,000. Until we're at that point, which is going to require a hefty sum of Patreon subscribers or something else bringing us some money. Until we hit that point, the project is on ice. We can't do anything with it. And personally, what I would prefer to do, now that we've learned more about how to use Unreal 5, Chaos Physics, we've got Chaos Physics vehicles replicated, which you've seen in previous updates, and we'll be showing more off in the future. I'd rather we just, if we approach Smash Punks again, we just build it from scratch using all that technology, because that's stuff that we can develop and use without being C++ whiz kids. No doubt at some point when we have the money, we would want to plug in those programmers. But for now, it just has to sit on ice. That sucks. I really, really wanted to deliver this game. I've been working on it in one iteration or another since 2017, 18. So it's now going on 6 years of my life to try and make this thing work. And the amount that I have been screwed over on this project has made me hate it a little bit. Like, I don't want to... any love I had for the robot fighting world is fucking long gone. Because there's so much just pain and upset attached to this thing. At the same time, it's a great game. It's extremely fun and it's different. And what we were on the cusp of achieving was awesome. And we were giving it to people and they were enjoying it. The problem is, it all blew up. And it's not a case, like anything, you can't just blow a train up and then pick up all the pieces and reassemble it and expect the train to keep going. Also, the costs alone are prohibitive. So we've got to get this business back up to a point where it is fully armed and operational and capable of developing products. That's what we got to get to in order for us to be able to pick that up and restart it. So it's frustrating, but that's the situation with Smash Punks. The other thing that we've been kind of revealing and showing off a bit is Gun Day, which has gone through a tremendous amount of changes. It's almost hard to describe the kind of zigzagging that's gone through as we've tried to like find the fun and trying to also importantly find a gap in the market. Like, what is something that people want that they're not getting, that not only can we develop, but actually want to develop, and we think we can innovate in that sphere, in that area. That's been difficult. And so Gun Day has sort of actually morphed more into a sort of a development sandbox of ideas. We've done a lot of cool things in this, and that's allowed us to prototype lots of different types of experiences. And I want to show more of that off over the next couple of weeks and months as we continue to experiment in that sandbox. But what has specifically come out of it, and we're going to try and get a build out for this, ideally before Easter. If it comes out after, sue us. But we've developed a prototype of a multiplayer zombie shooter, kind of in the ilk of, look, Left 4 Dead's awesome. We all thought Back 4 Blood was going to be Left 4 Dead 3, and it wasn't, and it was shit. And so, historically, I started Prospect, previous business, that started as a Left 4 Dead modding team. Love it. Love games like Killing Floor. Never really got into games like DayZ. I see the appeal, but I always thought it could have been done much better, or somebody should come along and do a better job. And right now we're living in a world where it's like, look, Dead Island 2, whatever, it's been coming for years. Can't imagine if Dead Island 1 was like an actual abortion. The Day Before is like not a real game. That's what everyone's hyped up with at the moment in terms of zombie shooters. It's not real. It's like vaporware. Maybe it'll be real one day, who knows. I hope that wasn't liable. I don't give a shit. It looks like shit anyway. They've not shown off anything. Don't trust them. And, there's been rumors of Left 4 Dead 3 files being found in Counter-Strike, but who knows if it's coming. And either way, what we've built in this Gun Day sandbox has enabled us very quickly to pull together a kind of fast-paced, 4-player-esque zombie shooter in which we want to do a lot of cool and interesting things. And within this sandbox, we have like replicated chaos vehicles. We have the ability to run a game that can host screen-based gamers and VR gamers simultaneously. So just, a few days ago on Friday, before the weekend, we had Jack running around shooting things in VR, Michael and I running around in screen space, and it all worked together quite nicely. And we're playing this thinking, well, we haven't had a great fast-paced new zombie shooter in years. We're working in this engine that has a ton of capacity for doing lots and lots of very cool things. Under-the-hood stuff, visual stuff. It also supports VR and screen-based modes. And we think we've learned through doing things like Smash Punks how to do multiplayer experiences in terms of like game loops and trying to find the fun. What we have right now, we find quite entertaining, even though it's at a very rudimentary level. So that's all to say. What I think the future is going to be is us showing off more of the kind of experimental Gunday sandbox, showing off more of this specific zombie game, and trying to figure out, is this the thing that could become a product? Is this the thing that we can get into people's hands? And if they like it and they want to see more of it, okay, would they be willing to take the next step and sign up to Patreon? Can we get a group of influencers, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, regularly playing updates to the game, thus sending people towards us to download it, play it, donate money, super chatters, whatever? Can that model work in which we have a sort of focused product that we're working on, a larger kind of experimental sandbox of other titles that we're messing around with? And then, we have another game that Michael worked on for a little bit last year that we sort of shelved because didn't quite know if it was going to work or not. I think we've mentioned it on previous streams. But I want to show that off, alongside us just making this kind of content, addressing issues in the industry, addressing our vision for the future, trying to be funny, trying to be silly, trying to be kooky, getting honestly probably getting angry a lot. I'm really fucking fired up because I got like 34 years of fucking rage in me, so I need to get that out some way, and I've tried everything, and I think this might be the best outlet. Is literally, if it's not this, I'm just going to be out in a forest like screaming at the trees, honestly. So I may as well try and do it while being recorded, and maybe I can make some money out of it. Who knows? And if I can make some money, that is going to enable me to make games, because Lord knows that's where all my money has gone for my entire adult life. If I have some money, it goes straight into making games. And then somebody fucks us over and steals that money, essentially, or completely removes my ability to make money. I go, fuck it. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to jump right back on the saddle and start making games again. So that's going to be the future. It's going to be angry, but it's also going to be entertaining, I hope. It's going to be fun. Sometimes it'll be lighthearted, but it's going to be about games. It's going to be about putting gamers first. It's going to be about going in the opposite direction to the industry, which I view as in a downwards trajectory on the cusp of freefall. At least in terms of quality, I think we're already there, but in terms of actual sales and this kind of growing momentum this industry has been going through for years and years, I think we're coming to the end of it, because on the whole, it has completely lost its ability to make entertaining at least the Western hemisphere of games development. I think the Japanese are still pretty much crushing it and doing a great job. But everybody outside that country is just collectively shitting the bed, and it's becoming harder and harder, especially at the larger end of the scale. The best stuff going at the moment is coming from smaller, more independent teams. Outside of that, it's bad. So I want us to be focused on addressing that problem in particular. How can we make products that are great, that are built for gamers, that advance the medium, and hopefully in some way, I wouldn't say even reverse the direction of this industry, but starts to supplant it, starts to show people like, hey, just because these huge multinational companies and investment vehicles, just because they hold your favorite IP, I mean, you're not going to get that IP back, basically, but just because they hold a specific IP and have their grip over a specific type of game, doesn't mean others can't come in and start to do a better job. And if we can gain some support and momentum around that, then Enemy Team has a future, and thus gaming has a future. That's the goal. Try to save gaming. So, and maybe save ourselves along the way. Some goofy shit. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find salvation for ourselves along the way. That'd be nice. I'd just like to make some fucking money. I'd just like to not be on the brink of financial ruination constantly, and to not be so stressed that, I've been having like heart palpitations for like 5 weeks straight. If you've never had heart palpitations, I'll describe it. It's your heart, like, it's like inflammation and like over pumping of your heart, and like it falling out of the correct rhythm, going really fast, going really slow. it's awful. It kind of feels like your heart isn't working anymore and like it's about to stop working. And having that for 6 weeks straight, I cannot begin to describe how stressful and upsetting that has been. So I would like a reduction of the heart palpitations, an increase of money, and I'm fine with stress. Like, no doubt doing all of this is always going to be stressful. But I would just like to be able to eat at the end of the day and not be too worried, and to be able to support the guys. Like I've had to I've had to fire almost everyone I've ever worked with, and most of the people that I've worked with have also been like really close friends, like lifelong friends or people I've become very friendly with. I'd like to support the people around me and not have to constantly tell people like, hey, we might be dead tomorrow and thus you'll be out of a job and destitute. I recommend you get it. Here's some cardboard and here's some bubble wrap. Get all of your stuff wrapped up. You might not be moving out, but it's very possible you will be living under an underpass, sucking and fucking to get by. That could happen. So I'm going to need you to just pack up and get ready to die. I'd like to never have to have that conversation ever again. So I've been hyping myself up. I've been watching The Founder. I've been watching Wolf of Wall Street. I've been watching all the Sigma grind set movies to kind of get me in the right mindset of we just got to go for it. And that doesn't mean we have to be dishonest or deceitful or anything like that. But we do have to be realistic about where we're at. And we have to be focused. We have to be focused on the future, and we got to make some goddamn money. Okay? So, and we got to have fun while doing it. It's not going to work unless we have fun. So, I think I've said enough. I would merely be repeating myself at this point. So, I hope that this hour or so long live stream has been informative and entertaining, as crazy as it's been, with the emotional highs and lows we've been through. I hope you understand that we haven't been absent because we don't care or because we have something better to do. We've been absent because we've been like sick and dying, and we're coming out of that phase. We're renewed, we're like a phoenix rising from the ashes, and we are gazing upon an industry in decline. London is burning, it's all falling apart. We don't view that necessarily as a bad thing. There's tremendous opportunity here. We believe in ourselves, and we believe that we can build great products for today and for the future. We can build an empire, but we've got to get moving. So today marks a very exciting new chapter in our lives here at Enemy Team. And to everyone who has supported us or been watching and waiting to see what we do, I hope you understand where I'm coming from with this. If you are pissed off, if you're upset, if you don't like the way that things have gone, I agree with you. I don't like how things have gone, but this is how it's going to be moving forwards. So, let us know. Hit us up, like, favorite, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think. Yeah, and if you think people are gonna like what we're doing, then share the stream, share the videos. There'll be a lot more content coming out. I'm gonna get more on top of actually sharing and posting that stuff around. Anyway, you get the picture. We're working this out. So, thank you for watching, and I've forgotten how you end these. That's embarrassing. I think you just click end stream. I've got an end. Hang on, I have an outro screen, but it's kind of shit. I'm not gonna hit that, so I'll just say thank you for watching, and we will. Oh no, yeah. If I click end, it might cut off the end of my. I'm gonna awkwardly sit and I'm gonna say stream over, and then I'm gonna disappear. But I gotta leave it on for a second. Here we go. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. This has been the Enemy Stream. I've been Andrew Benison. I will be back again shortly with more anger and rage, but also some positivity. All right, goodbye. I'm going away now. Bye-bye. See you later. Bye-bye. Oh, where's the end? The end button's gone. Goodbye.